Some died in exile. Some ruled in shadows. One built libraries and burned cities. This isn't loud history. It's history that haunts in whispers. Close your eyes and come with me. Let the stories begin. Hey friends, dim the lights and let your mind drift toward the vast steppes of Central Asia. Picture yourself beneath a cold, starlit sky, where the wind howls across endless grasslands. Here, in 1162, a boy named Temujin was born holding a clot of blood in his fist, a sign, they said, of power. He would become Genghis Khan. You might think of brutality as recklessness, but Genghis was precise. Cities that resisted were erased. Those that surrendered lived. His horsemen rode in silence, thousands strong, striking from below, from above, from within. And yet, he built roads, shared trade routes, and welcomed scholars. A brutal force, yes, but also a paradoxical architect. His empire spanned from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea. And still, his tent was simple. His bed, dirt and wool. His meals, coarse, silent. No gold throne, just dust and discipline. Isn't it curious? The man who caused the deaths of millions was also the one who ensured postal delivery across Asia. Close your eyes, dear listener. Can you hear the hoofbeats fading into the wind? You are stepping now into the forests of Wallachia, where the trees whisper secrets in the dark. In the 15th century, Vlad III, son of the dragon, was not a tale. He was terror with a crown. Known to history as Vlad the Impaler, he ruled with a singular philosophy. Fear is order. Imagine entering a town and seeing a field of wooden stakes, and atop each stake, a motionless body. This was not war. It was a warning. To invaders, to traitors, to liars. He didn't scream. He didn't chase. He simply waited and let the silence punish. But here's the twist. He defended his land against the mighty Ottoman Empire. His people saw safety in his savagery, and in a time when survival was uncertain, his terror gave structure. In life, he rarely smiled, but when he did, it was said to freeze the bones. And yet, the towns he ruled were oddly clean. Thieves feared him more than death. Crime disappeared. Order thrived. So tonight, under the hush of history, you might ask, was he a monster or a mirror of his times? Let your breath slow, and let the forest around you fade into sleep. You're now floating into Rome's golden age, but listen closely, for madness hides behind marble. In 37 CE, Gaius Caesar, known to us as Caligula, ascended the throne with cheers and promise. The people adored him, but like a candle, his sanity burned fast. What followed was a spectacle of excess. He made his horse a senator. He ordered his soldiers to attack the sea. He once demanded divine worship and built temples to himself. You might expect anger, violence, even war. But what made Caligula brutal wasn't conquest. It was unpredictability. One moment, laughter. The next, a nod. And someone vanished. Not from rage, from whim. He wore gold robes, dined in pearl dust, and walked barefoot across mosaics of suffering. Senators feared his smile. Servants feared his silence. But what if the real tragedy was this? Once he was kind. Once he loved his sister. He gave gifts. He danced. And then a fever. Some say it shattered his mind. Tonight, in the soft flicker of candlelight, think of him not as monster or myth, but a reminder. Power without boundaries doesn't grow. It unravels. And isn't that thought strangely peaceful? Dear listener, take a deep breath and step gently into the snow-covered palaces of Russia. Ivan IV, crowned as the first Tsar, was not born terrible. He was a curious child, orphaned young, raised in cruelty. And cruelty, he learned, is a teacher with long memories. He ruled with iron, but not with chaos. He built cathedrals. He revised law codes. And yet, when suspicion whispered, he struck. His secret police, the oprichniki, dressed in black, rode with dog heads and brooms. Loyalty was their sermon. Blood was their ink. They cleansed, they burned, they erased. And one evening, in a rage not aimed, he struck his own son with a staff, with grief, with guilt. The heir died, and Ivan, once the reformer, became Ivan the Terrible. Still, his Russia grew stronger, boundaries stretched, enemies flinched, but he withdrew. They say he died playing chess, quietly, simply, like a man waiting for checkmate. So tonight, under your blanket, wonder this. If Ivan had been shown love, not power, what might have become of him? Let that question drift with you into the hush of dreams. Hey friends, if this journey through shadows soothes your thoughts, maybe consider subscribing to hear more. Now, close your eyes and walk with me to ancient China, where mountains bow to time and silence. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, united China. Not with warmth, with war. He burned books, buried scholars, and carved order from chaos. He built walls, thousands of miles of them. He created a script, a currency, a system. Everything became one under him. But his eyes never closed. He feared death. Obsessively. He drank mercury elixirs, searched for immortality, even sent ships to find islands where no one aged, and beneath his feet a secret army slept, 8,000 clay warriors, frozen mid-step, guarding him for eternity. Isn't it strange? The man who ruled millions trusted statues more than people. His legacy is order, but also fear, harmony carved by cruelty. So, as your head sinks into the pillow, imagine the hush of ancient clay feet, waiting still, waiting always, in silence. Hey friends, settle into your sheets. This next name might flicker like firelight in your mind. Nero, Emperor of Rome, musician, murderer, mystery. They say he sang while Rome burned, but maybe he didn't. History twists with each telling. What we do know, he killed his mother, poisoned his stepbrother, banished his wife, then had her beaten. And yet, he loved poetry. He sang. He painted stars on palace ceilings. He built a golden house with rotating rooms, and he whispered verses to a dead world, pretending it still listened. To Rome, he gave games and blood, but inside, he was a child lost in his own theater. Every day, another mask, another role. And when they turned on him, he fled, alone, powerless. And his last words? What an artist dies in me. So tonight, ask yourself, can a man write beauty and burn it too? As your eyes flutter shut, let Nero's flames become soft candlelight. Distant, dancing, done. You're riding now into the wind-torn steppes of Europe. The hooves echo. The sky darkens. Attila, the scourge of God, was never meant to build. He was meant to break. He didn't wear a crown of gold. He wore fur and steel, and when he rode, kingdoms trembled. He sacked cities, demanded tribute, and carried no throne, just motion. But here's the twist. He never touched Rome. He stood at its gates, then turned away. Why? Some say fear, some say bribes. Others say he saw ruins in the future. He ruled without walls, moved like a storm, and yet his death was quiet. A nosebleed on his wedding night. No war, no dagger, just gone. And in his grave, legend says, lie 3 coffins, iron, silver, gold, hidden beneath a river diverted for his burial. Close your eyes, dear listener. Somewhere, beneath still waters, a warrior sleeps. Let's float gently into the 19th century, Europe's age of maps and empires. Leopold II, King of Belgium, a man who spoke of civilization, but cloaked a continent in sorrow. He never set foot in the Congo, and yet, through rubber and ivory, he turned it into his private colony. Villages vanished, hands were severed as quotas, forests screamed quietly. But in Belgium, he built parks, museums, libraries. He walked cobbled streets with roses in hand, praised by poets, admired by statesmen. That's the paradox, isn't it? A gentle gardener in Europe, a phantom tyrant in Africa. When the truth surfaced, the world gasped, but softly. And when he died, Belgians wept. But the Congo remembered differently. Tonight, ask yourself, can kindness in one hand erase cruelty in the other? Let the silence hold your answer. You're now stepping into the silent rice fields of Cambodia. Pol Pot wore glasses, taught philosophy, and dreamed of a perfect society. But dreams can rot. Under his rule, millions vanished. Not from war, but from ideals. Books were banned, schools emptied, cities evacuated. Even wearing glasses meant suspicion. He called it Year Zero, a restart, a cleansing. But what remained was hunger, silence, graves beneath trees. And yet, he smiled, always calm, always soft-spoken. In the jungle, he grew vegetables, taught children, read quietly, as if he were just a farmer. His brutality was not loud. It was systematic, clinical, still. And when he died, it was not by trial, not by war, but old age in a hammock. Tonight, as the world sleeps, remember, not all tyrants shout. Some whisper. You're drifting now to the island of Capri, waves lapping gently beneath marble cliffs. Tiberius, Rome's second emperor, ruled in shadows. He trusted no one, loved no one, and when he left Rome, he never returned. They say he built villas where cruelty was art, where fear was silence, where no one ever left. But he was also a general, a reformer, a man burdened by the ghost of Augustus. He didn't seek the throne. It sought him, and once it found him, it never let go. He died alone, paranoid, watching the sea, still wearing his armor beneath robes. So, tonight, let the waves carry this thought. Sometimes power isolates more than it elevates, and sometimes the loudest cries are hidden in stone. Hey friends, take a moment. Tonight's entry isn't loud. It's layered, like silk over steel. Empress Jito ruled Japan in the 7th century. A rare woman on the chrysanthemum throne. Regal, composed, and quietly ruthless. After her husband's death, she didn't just mourn. She moved. Silently, precisely. Rivals were banished. Suspected traitors retired to remote temples. But in the records, no blood, just poetry, just shadows. She stabilized Japan, yes, but how? By removing whispers before they turned into words. Imagine standing beneath blooming cherry trees. The petals fall like snow, soft and slow. Beautiful, but they cover something. A silence, a strategy. Ito wasn't feared. She was obeyed, and that is far more enduring. As your thoughts slow, ask, can elegance conceal an iron will? Let the wind carry that thought, like a petal lost in time. You are now stepping into the twilight of Constantinople. In 1453, Mehmed II, just 21, stood before the walls of the ancient city. It had stood for 1,000 years. He gave it 50 days. Cannons roared, prayers rose, the city fell. He entered not as destroyer, but as ruler. He kissed the cathedral floor, and then reshaped the world. But power, once tasted, deepens. Mehmed expanded east and west, executed his half-brother at birth, a law he passed. To safeguard the throne, a prince may kill his brothers. He read Homer, built libraries, prayed 5 times daily. And yet, he ruled with absolute silence. Imagine a mind that loved Aristotle and ordered executions before breakfast. Brutality and brilliance, steel and scrolls. That was Mehmed. Tonight, picture the moon over the Bosphorus and wonder, when a city falls, what truly rises? Let sleep answer. Hey, friends, draw your blanket closer. This tale wanders across deserts. Tamerlane, or Timur, called himself the Sword of Islam. He wasn't Arab, he wasn't Mongol, but he made the world tremble. From India to Syria, he left cities in ruins. In Delhi, the Yamuna River ran dark. In Baghdad, pyramids of skulls. And yet, he loved gardens, built blue-domed cities, wrote poetry, studied stars. They say he was lame in one leg, but his mind never limped. It galloped. Tamerlane believed in destiny. His banner bore 3 circles, heaven, earth, and fate. When he died, his tomb was engraved with a curse. Whoever disturbs me will unleash a greater terror. In 1941, his grave was opened. Days later, Hitler invaded Russia. Coincidence, or just the echo of old footsteps? Tonight, let that echo fade gently, like sand beneath your feet. You are now standing beneath gray skies, where bells toll across Tudor London. Mary Tudor, Bloody Mary, was England's first crowned queen, daughter of Henry VIII, devoted Catholic, and deeply wronged. She lost her throne once, fled once, loved deeply once. But when she returned, she did not forget. To cleanse England, she burned over 280 Protestants, not in rage, but in ritual, public executions, sacred duty. Yet she played the virginal lute, loved embroidery, believed fully in redemption. Can faith justify flame? Her people feared her, and yet pitied her. She suffered phantom pregnancies, died childless, alone, and still every mirror holds her name. Tonight, ask softly, was she cruel or simply crushed by hope? Let your breath rise like candle smoke, and let her sorrow pass. Hey friends, we now drift to the heart of Africa, Zaire, 1965. Mobutu wore a leopard hat, golden cane. He renamed rivers, cities, even himself. The all-powerful warrior who goes from conquest to conquest. He banned neckties, banned foreign names, but not foreign money. Palaces bloomed in jungles, airports built where no planes flew. He looted billions, but he smiled while doing it. Mobutu wasn't loud, he was theatrical, and in his theater, truth bent. He once said, "There can be no opposition in heaven. Why should there be one on earth?" He ruled for 32 years, but when he fell, no army stood, only silence. Tonight, as the night deepens, wonder. Can a crown built on mirrors reflect forever? Let the stars flicker. Let the illusion fade. Hey, friends, dim the lights. We're stepping into a velvet-covered court. Catherine de' Medici ruled not with a sword, but with whispers. Queen of France, widow, mother of kings. She survived poison, betrayal, and war, but she didn't flinch. She leaned in. They say she wore black veils, consulted astrologers, built secret passageways, and during the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, 3,000 Protestants died under her silence. But she also protected her children, founded ballet, brought perfume to court. Power was perfume to her, sweet, subtle, and often hiding something rotten. Tonight, listen closely. Can you hear silk brushing marble? That's Catherine, still walking. Let her steps become your heartbeat. Slower now, slower. You are drifting now into 20th century Spain, where silence ruled with medals. Franco was not loud. He didn't rant. He simply endured. During Spain's civil war, he let cities bleed. And after victory, no healing, just control. Books were banned, languages silenced. Dissidents vanished. Yet he presented calm, order, religion, family. He ruled for nearly 40 years, and when he died, Spain didn't erupt. It exhaled. Franco called himself a soldier of destiny. But history remembers. A long pause. So tonight, lie still. Sometimes the most brutal storms leave no sound, and in that silence, history stares back. Let's drift gently into ancient Judea. The stones are old, the desert still. Herod, king of the Jews, was not loved, but, oh, he was feared. He rebuilt the temple, fortresses, cities, even harbors. His hand shaped stone, and spilled blood. He killed his wife, his sons, even newborns, some say. Rome admired him, but whispered, better to be Herod's pig than his child. He ordered that nobles be executed upon his death, so someone would mourn. The order was never carried out, but the thought lingered. And yet, he brought prosperity, trade, art, order, a king with vision, and paranoia. Tonight, look at the stars. He saw them too once, and feared what they foretold. sleep with peace, even if he never did. Hey friends, light your incense and imagine a dragon throne. In the 15th century, the Ming dynasty rose under Emperor Yongle. He moved the capital to Beijing, built the Forbidden City, repaired the Great Wall, sent fleets across oceans, a ruler of vast dreams, but dreams cost lives. He killed scholars, burned books, moved millions by decree, and his rise to power, his nephew disappeared. He had grand maps and missing voices, but he also loved calligraphy, rewarded bravery, prayed at sacred mountains, a contradiction wrapped in silk robes. Tonight, ask, can a nation be built on silence and still sing? Let the wind whisper through ancient tiles and breathe. Hey friends, the final name tonight arrives with a quiet shadow. Idi Amin, Uganda's ruler in the 1970s, was a soldier, boxer, and self-declared king. He expelled thousands, filled lakes with silence, dined lavishly while markets emptied. And yet, he danced, laughed, hugged children. He spoke in riddles, prayed before cameras, praised by some, feared by all. They called him the Butcher of Uganda. But in exile, he watched cartoons, grew fat, told stories. When he died in Saudi Arabia, no trial came, no justice, just silence. Tonight, think gently. How does a man so loud vanish so softly? Let that thought drift into dreams. Hey, friends, dim the lights and step softly into marble halls. Domitian ruled Rome in the late 1st century. Not the poet, not the builder, the punisher. He walked silently through his palace, walls mirrored so no one could surprise him. He feared the dagger, but handed many himself. He didn't start brutal, but paranoia blooms like ivy, quiet and spreading. Friends became suspects, praises became traps. He signed death orders like poetry, without raising his voice, without blinking. And yet, he improved the economy, built libraries, restored temples, loved dogs. Yes, dogs. Imagine a man who wrote children's stories and exiled his own wife. He was stabbed by his own staff in silence. The marble absorbed the sound. Tonight, think of this. When fear rules the ruler, who's really in charge? Let that question rest with you, like the hush before dawn. You are now wandering the sunlit roads of ancient Sicily. Gaius Verus, governor, collector, opportunist. Not an emperor, not a king, but his cruelty carved deeper than some emperors ever did. He taxed temples, robbed homes, arrested innocent farmers, fed prisoners to animals for sport, all with a gentle smile and the seal of Rome. What made him dangerous wasn't madness, it was permission, a man unchecked. He loved art, stole it all, statues, paintings, heirlooms, even sundials, even gods. Cicero, the orator, finally challenged him, called him out, piece by piece, speech by speech. And Verres, he vanished, into exile, into history. He never led armies, but ruled through silence, paperwork, and smiles. Tonight, as you lie still, remember, not all tyrants sit on thrones. Some sit behind desks. Let that thought fade like a forgotten decree. Dear listeners, breathe deep and drift south into the misty highlands of Madagascar. Ranavalona I ruled for over 30 years. A queen, yes, but also a fortress. She closed the island, expelled missionaries, rejected modern medicine, and those who defied her? They walked the Tangina ordeal, a trial by poison. Thousands did not survive, and yet her court wore woven silks. She preserved tradition, maintained independence, refused colonizers. She called it protection. Others called it isolation. Her face was stoic, her law absolute. But her people divided. Some remembered safety, others remembered sorrow. Can one guard a kingdom so tightly it forgets how to breathe? Tonight, listen to the rustling leaves. They've seen her reign. They whisper still. You are now stepping into a dream made of velvet and gold. Central Africa, 1976. Bokassa crowned himself emperor, built a golden throne shaped like an eagle, wore a cape of white ermine, and spent 1/3 of the national budget on the ceremony. He spoke French, loved classical music, and once banned school uniforms, then punished students who disobeyed. Power, for him, was theater, drama, and cruelty was its applause. He renamed days, gave himself medals, praised Napoleon while copying his style. His court filled with wine, whispers, and silence. Eventually, France intervened. The emperor fell, but he said, "I regret nothing. Tonight, ask softly, can delusion become its own empire? And in dreams, who wears the crown? Hey, friends, settle into your blanket. We're gliding into golden dynasties now." Emperor Taizong ruled China in the 7th century. Wise, just, brilliant. But before the throne, shadows linger. He was a prince, then a warrior. Then he murdered his brothers, including the heir, including the ones who trusted him. His father gave him the crown, but it was blood that oiled its hinges. As emperor, he listened, welcomed scholars, created laws, encouraged science. History loves him. But beneath his jade seal, family ghosts, he visited their tombs, alone, often. Can greatness sprout from a grave? Tonight, imagine a scroll unrolling slowly, its ink both dark and golden. Let the brushstrokes calm you. Hey, friends, a hush now as we step into the 20th century, into revolution and reverence. Khomeini was a scholar, a poet, a cleric, and then a leader. In 1979, he returned from exile and reshaped Iran. Faith and state became one. Morality police, cultural resets, a new rhythm, a quieter fear. He banned music, closed universities, silenced dissent, but also uplifted the poor, spoke of dignity, prayed always with precision. He ruled not through charisma, but conviction. He lived simply, wrote letters, cried in prayer, and yet he signed death lists, thousands gone in a season. What remains? A voice on old tapes, a black turban, a legacy both honored and haunted. Tonight, ask, can a soft voice echo too loudly? Let that echo lull you. You're traveling now with horsemen again, through Persia, through Baghdad. Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis, carried the storm westward. In 1258, he reached Baghdad, the jewel of Islam, a city of books, scholars, and dreams, and he destroyed it. the Tigris River turned dark, from ink, from memory. Libraries burned, caliphs fell, the old world ended. But Hulagu wasn't reckless. He built observatories, supported philosophers, honored his wife's Christian faith. He saw the stars after extinguishing cities. Was he a barbarian or just a child of one? Tonight, let your thoughts float like smoke over a silent river. Sometimes, knowledge burns quieter than fire. Dear listener, take a breath. We now enter Persia's 18th century courts, velvet, glass, and shadow. Aga Muhammad Khan was captured young, castrated. Yet he rose. He ruled with coldness, never married, never smiled. His enemies? Blinded. His cities? Razed. Yet he unified Iran, stabilized it, brought Persian identity back into the sun. But he lived in fear, slept in shifting tents, trusted no soul. He was killed by a servant. No battle, just a whisper. And the next morning, his empire remained, but his tent was silent. Tonight, ponder. Can pain harden into power? Let the tent flap close gently behind you. Hey friends, dim your lamp. This story is older than alphabet. Akhenaten, sun priest, dreamer, heretic. He changed Egypt's religion. One God, one light, one name. He built a new city, loved music, poetry, art. His statues are strange, slender, serene, almost alien. But to priests, he was betrayal. Temples closed, gods silenced. His people hungered, confused. He ruled with devotion, but not to them. After his death, Egypt erased him. Names scratched out, temples broken, his God forgotten. And yet, his strange beauty lingers, a rebel wrapped in gold. Tonight, ask yourself, can love for the sun cast too long a shadow? Let your mind lie beside the Nile, calm and still. Hey friends, the final breath of this part carries a modern chill. Uday, son of Saddam Hussein, lived in luxury and fear. He loved parties, imported lions, wore gold suits, drove fast cars, but behind the glitz, darkness. He ran the Olympic Committee, athletes who failed, punished, sometimes vanished. He was unpredictable. He laughed too hard, shot without reason. Power was a toy he never understood. Even his father feared him. In 2003, Uday was killed by U.S. forces, but he died in a house, not a palace. The lions had gone silent, and the golden suits left behind. Tonight, wonder softly. How can someone born in power end up so small? Let that whisper settle as the lights dim. Hey friends, step now into a Roman palace of marble, flame, and fear. Diocletian ruled in the late 3rd century. The empire was breaking apart. He did not panic. He reorganized. Divided Rome into 4 parts, brought the coinage back to order, rebuilt temples, and then he ordered purges. The Great Persecution. Christians were hunted, scriptures burned, churches demolished, not in chaos, but by decree. Carefully, officially, thoroughly. He saw it as purification, a return to Roman virtue. He believed he was saving tradition. Then, one day, he retired, built a seaside villa, grew vegetables, walked barefoot in the garden. and when asked to return to rule, he declined, saying, "If you saw my cabbages, you wouldn't ask." A butcher in a toga turned gardener. Tonight, lie still and ask, can one wear a crown and still kneel before tomatoes? Let that image lull you. Dear listeners, tonight we enter a Spain filled with incense and iron. Isabella, queen, crusader, visionary. She unified Spain with her husband Ferdinand, funded Columbus, built cathedrals, but beneath the hymns, ashes. She began the Inquisition. Jews, Muslims, and heretics faced trials, or exile, or fire, all in the name of spiritual unity. She prayed fervently, dressed modestly, believed deeply in divine order. She wept for her nation, but watched it burn. Isabella wasn't loud. She didn't swing swords, but she set rules in motion that echoed for centuries. And yet, she died peacefully, clutching a crucifix, her hands folded in hope. Tonight, ask softly, does faith shine brighter when it casts no shadow? Let the bell toll once, and fade. Hey friends, the chandeliers flicker again. Back to Bokassa one more time. We met him before, but here we see the man before the crown. A general, a patriot, a friend of France. But soon he crowned himself emperor, designed robes like Napoleon, held court with diamonds, built schools but filled prisons. He was not insane. He was indulgent. He believed if France admired Versailles, then Africa deserved it too, even if built on suffering. They say he kept enemies close, too close, some never seen again. And when he was deposed, they found vaults of shoes, gold, silk, secrets. He lived quietly after, unrepentant. So tonight, think gently. When is grandeur a mask? Let the velvet curtain fall. You are now standing on African soil. The ground echoes with marching feet. Shaka Zulu, warrior, strategist, reformer. His name sings through the wind. He forged the Zulu kingdom with discipline, replaced throwing spears with stabbing ones, trained warriors to move silently, fast, together. But he ruled through fear. When his mother died, he ordered no crops be planted, no milk drunk. Thousands were executed in mourning. He built unity, but his grief bled over everything. Eventually, his own half-brothers turned on him. His end, swift, quiet. But his reforms, they lived on. So tonight, ask, can a soldier's heart break and still beat in history? Let the drum beats slow to silence. Ah, hey friends, we now ascend into Ethiopia's misty highlands. Tewodros II dreamed big, united Ethiopia's kingdoms, modernized the army, built roads, cast cannon from his own foundry, but dreams grew heavy. He imprisoned diplomats, punished critics, demanded absolute loyalty. He saw enemies where none existed. He once wept in church, begging God to make him merciful, then signed more death warrants. At his last battle, surrounded by British troops, he didn't surrender. He ended his life with a pistol, one gifted to him by Queen Victoria. A tragic circle. Tonight, imagine a lion who roared into silence, and ask, can too much vision blind? Let the mountain air still your thoughts. You are sailing now along the Neva River, ice forming at the edges. Peter the Great, Tsar of Russia, stood 6'8", towering in height and in vision. He modernized Russia, brought science, art, factories, built St. Petersburg with blood and will. He imposed beards, taxes, sent nobles to Europe, transformed a nation, but also tortured his own son to death with his own hands. He ruled with genius and grief, laughed loudly, punished swiftly, learned shipbuilding, danced in taverns. He was not cold, he burned. And in the end, a fever took him. Not war, not poison, just nature reminding him of limits. Tonight, ask, can brilliance and brutality sleep in the same bed? Let the river carry the answer away. Hey friends, the desert wind picks up. Let's step into modern Libya. Gaddafi wore sunglasses at night, lived in tents, wrote books of philosophy, called himself Brother Leader. He ruled for 42 years. He banned alcohol but kept golden pistols, promised freedom but punished poets, smiled on camera but tortured off screen. He thought himself revolutionary, spiritual, invincible. But revolutions don't sleep. One day the desert turned on him, and the tent collapsed. He died hidden in a drain pipe, not in gold, in silence. Tonight, wonder, can a man control a country and lose control of himself? Let the dunes whisper. They've seen it all. Dear listener, dim the torchlight. We now return to ancient China, where shadows reign. Hu Hai, son of Qin Shi Huang, inherited an empire and fear. Guided by a cruel advisor, he falsified his father's death, executed his siblings, crushed rebellions, and sealed himself in the palace. He trusted no one, and no one trusted him. He reigned barely 3 years, collapsed beneath conspiracy, madness, and isolation. He was forced to take his own life with a silk rope. The empire fractured, but his name, mostly forgotten. Tonight, let that whisper in your ear. Some legacies vanish not by fire, but by silence. Sleep deeply, even if he never could. Hey, friends, we arrive in the Caribbean now. Sunlight with shadows. Trujillo ruled the Dominican Republic for over 30 years, nicknamed El Jefe, known for order, feared for cruelty. He renamed mountains, cities, even clouds after himself. Banished enemies, ordered massacres, but roads were built, schools improved, people bowed, some willingly. He polished his boots every morning, greeted guests with warmth, took offense at mispronounced titles. He died in an ambush, dressed immaculately. A nation watched and exhaled. Tonight, ask gently, when does fear stop pretending to be respect? Let the waves crash once, and then hush. Hey friends, we end this part in candlelight and calculation. Leopold. I was not a brutal ruler himself, but he laid the foundations. It was his son, Leopold II, who ravaged the Congo. But Leopold the Faint, he planted ambition. He taught empire, strategy, global importance, gave his son maps, pride, entitlement. He himself was quiet, regal, dignified, but sometimes seeds do more than the tree. Tonight, ask, can a legacy be brutal, even if the man was not? Let that thought rest like a feather on your chest. Hey friends, step into revolutionary Paris, where justice once wore crimson robes. Robespierre, called the Incorruptible, spoke gently, wrote eloquently, believed deeply in liberty, equality, reason, and yet he gave the world the reign of terror. He didn't shout, he signed. Papers, names, dozens, hundreds. Guillotines didn't sleep. He wore powdered wigs, quoted Rousseau, and condemned his closest allies one by one. When silence fell over Paris, it wasn't peace. It was fear in polished shoes. Eventually, the blade turned toward him. His voice, once so clear, was silenced. His jaw shattered just before death. Tonight, ask softly, can purity become poison if clutched too tightly? Let the tricolor flags flutter away. You are now drifting across Mughal India, between minarets and marble. Aurangzeb, son of Shah Jahan, wasn't drawn to beauty. He chose discipline. He read the Quran, slept simply, wore no silk, and expanded the empire farther than any Mughal before him. But he was ruthless, imprisoned his father, executed his brother, banned music, destroyed temples, ruled with sharp faith and sharper law. He didn't build Taj Mahals. He built fortresses. He wrote letters to his sons, calm, wise, fatalistic, and on his deathbed he left a few coins and a prayer. Tonight, as the sky turns indigo, wonder, can restraint conceal unrest? Let that breath settle like dust on ancient stone. Hey friends, we now cross into the Ottoman twilight. Enver Pasha, a young general with shining eyes and grand dreams. He led the empire into World War I, boldly and disastrously. He admired Germany, loved uniforms, craved glory, but miscalculated winter, geography, and humanity. He played chess with empires and lost pieces by the million. Historians remember his role in the Armenian genocide. Orders whispered, then denied. He vanished into legend, only to die fighting, far from Istanbul. He died on horseback, sword in hand, still seeking redemption. Tonight, imagine snow falling over silent mountains. And ask, can ambition freeze before it burns? Let the flurries hush that thought. Dear listener, dim the lights for a child who ruled and never ruled. Ivan VI was crowned as an infant, then imprisoned. He spent nearly all his life in solitary confinement. No name, no visitors, just walls, just silence. He never signed a law, never held court, never saw a garden. His guards were forbidden to speak to him, and when he was 18 and someone tried to free him, they killed him. No trial, no monument, just a quiet burial on a cold night. Tonight, ask, can one be brutalized by a crown never worn? Let the echo of his silence cradle you. Hey friends, we drift now to 1980s Guatemala. Rios Montt, soldier, preacher, president. He quoted scripture, held prayer circles, promised renewal, and oversaw one of the darkest campaigns of state violence in Latin America. Villages vanished, entire regions emptied. But he smiled on television, quoted the Bible, called it righteousness. He ruled briefly, just over a year. But that year echoes in mass graves and courtrooms. He was later tried for genocide, found guilty. Then, verdict annulled. He died years later, still praying. So tonight, ask, can silence after harm ever be called peace? Let the forest close in gently. Hey friends, a new shadow enters. A gladiator emperor. Commodus, son of Marcus Aurelius, believed himself a god. He fought in the arena. Staged battles he always won. Dressed as Hercules, renamed the months after himself. He enjoyed spectacle, disdained statecraft. He executed senators, juggled concubines, and taxed Rome into exhaustion, all while flexing for the crowd. Eventually, even his bodyguards had enough. A wrestler was sent to finish him. He died in a bathtub, not with a roar, but a splash. Tonight, as water flows in your sink or your dreams, ask, does ego always float? Let the ripples disappear. You are now drifting into Japan's imperial twilight. Hirohito, poised, soft-spoken, scholarly, a marine biologist, a man who wrote haiku, and yet his reign oversaw a brutal war. In his name, cities were razed, atrocities committed, millions perished, but he rarely intervened, rarely spoke. After the war, he remained emperor, untouched, revered, silent. He once said he deeply regretted the war, but stopped short of apology. Was he a puppet, a planner, a ghost behind glass? He died peacefully in his sleep, loved by many, questioned by more. Tonight, let this question float. Can responsibility whisper, and can regret rest? Hey friends, the breeze shifts. We now walk into Byzantium. Basil II, emperor for nearly 50 years. Cold, calculating, effective. He ruled by patience, waited out enemies, strengthened borders, starved rebellions. But his name comes from one act. After a decisive victory, he blinded thousands of captured soldiers, left one eye in every 100 to lead the rest home. His enemies called him the Bulgar Slayer. He never denied it. Yet he lived simply, slept alone, died without heirs, a ruler of frost, not fire. Tonight, wonder gently, can one act define a lifetime? Let the torch flicker once and go still. You are now entering candlelit salons of Russian splendor. Catherine the Great, empress, philosopher, lover of enlightenment. She read Voltaire, wrote essays, modernized education, expanded borders, but held serfs in chains. She came to power through a coup, her husband gone. Quietly, she charmed nobles, hosted salons, rewrote laws, but crushed revolts, especially when they rose from peasants. She adored art and absolute rule. She died on a chaise lounge surrounded by books. So tonight, ask softly, can brilliance blind the view from below? Let the chandeliers dim. Hey friends, we close this chapter in the forests of Equatorial Guinea. Macias ruled in the 1970s, closed schools, banned words, declared himself a god. He ordered executions in stadiums, replaced medicine with mysticism, lived in fear but ruled with force. He kept the treasury under his bed, burned libraries, outlawed the word intellectual, and yet he feared the dark, slept with candles burning. Eventually, his nephew overthrew him, and history barely flinched. Tonight, whisper this question. Can fear ever truly lead? Let the jungle quiet that answer. Hey friends, take a breath of cold Afghan air, mountain wind and silence. Timur Shah, son of the famed Ahmad Shah Durrani, inherited an empire and fractured it. He ruled from Kabul, then Kandahar, then back again, never still, never satisfied. His court shifted like sand, and his trust wore thin. He exiled brothers, silenced rivals, and watched his empire shrink, not from invasion, but from isolation. He loved poetry, favored gardens, but rarely smiled. His advisors feared his quiet more than his orders. He died in 1793, his tomb ornate, but his legacy faded. Tonight, ask, can a ruler be defeated by no one but himself? Let the breeze carry that away. Dear listeners, we now drift to West Africa. Liberia, 1990s. Charles Taylor studied in America, wore tailored suits, quoted scripture, then plunged his nation into chaos. He led rebels, took power, traded diamonds for weapons, fueled wars in neighboring countries. Children carried guns. Civilians lived in fear, but he preached peace from podiums. He once said, "I am the Jesus Christ of politics." Then exiled priests and silenced newspapers. Eventually, the world intervened. He was tried for war crimes and sentenced. His trial was long, his cell silent. So tonight, ask softly, when words and weapons mix, which echoes longer? Let the ocean hush your thoughts. Hey friends, step carefully through Rome again, marble still wet with memory. Caracalla shared power once with his brother, but sharing didn't suit him. In a moment of fury or fear, he killed his brother in their mother's arms. The empire watched. She wept. He then offered citizenship to all free men in the empire, a generous gesture, but mostly a tax move. He adored Alexander the Great, styled himself as a warrior, but distrusted almost everyone. He built great baths, lavish, echoing, serene, and ordered mass executions from within them. He was assassinated while relieving himself on a roadside. Tonight, let this image linger. Greatness shaped like marble, cracked by blood. Let the bathwater cool. You're now sailing into the waters of fading Ottoman dreams. Enver Bey, brilliant, brave, and blind to consequence. He led the empire into war, lost battles, lost soldiers, but never lost confidence. He believed in a grand Turkic revival, a pan-national rebirth. But along the way, he erased cultures, suppressed identities, ignored borders, ignored warnings. After the empire fell, he fled east to Central Asia, still fighting, still dreaming, still losing. He died in a remote valley, shot in a skirmish, still wearing his medals. So tonight, wonder, can vision, unchecked, become a form of sleepwalking? Let the wind shift direction, as he never did. Hey friends, now we glide into Tang Dynasty China, where power once wore pearls. A Wu Zetian began as a concubine, became a wife, then regent, then emperor. She ruled directly, writing edicts, reforming law, supporting scholars, but also eliminating rivals. Sons, daughters, ministers, names erased, truths buried. She created her own dynasty, built temples, raised statues, declared herself divine empress. But she also listened to scholars, read poetry aloud, slept near incense. Her tomb still holds mysteries. Her true thoughts sealed in stone. Tonight, as jasmine scent drifts from imagined gardens, ask, does power purify or just perfume? Let the petals fall quietly. You are now walking gray boulevards in communist Romania. Ceausescu spoke of equality, built palaces, starved villages. He banned abortion, outlawed dissent, demanded televised praise. The people smiled with empty stomachs. He turned Bucharest into a ghost city, old neighborhoods erased for marble monuments. His final speech was met with boos. His final escape, a failed flight. His final words, a denial. He and his wife were executed on Christmas Day, a broadcast without celebration. His palace still stands, grand, empty, cold. So tonight, let this question flicker. Can bricks speak guilt? Let the frost wrap that thought. Hey friends, dim the torchlight. We return now to the Nile, where kings ruled like gods. Thutmose III reigned for nearly 54 years, a warrior pharaoh, a tactical mind. He expanded Egypt more than anyone, fought 17 campaigns, built obelisks that touch the sky. But first, he had to erase his stepmother Hatshepsut. After her death, he ordered her name chiseled from monuments, her statues smashed. He wanted history to forget her. Yet today we remember her, and him. He lies buried in the Valley of Kings, his mummy, face serene, fists clenched. Tonight, ponder gently. Can erasure ever truly succeed? Let the river answer if it wishes. Dear listener, the Pacific winds carry us now to wartime Japan. Tojo, soldier, strategist, prime minister, he bowed deeply, spoke softly, led ruthlessly. He approved the attack on Pearl Harbor, oversaw invasions, allowed brutal policies. Yet he kept order, managed resources, upheld discipline, always in uniform. After Japan's surrender, he tried to take his own life, failed, was patched up, then tried. He was executed in 1948, but bowed to his captors. His ashes scattered from a plane. Tonight, ask, can duty and destruction wear the same boots? Let the clouds drift and not judge. Hey friends, tonight's entry belongs not to a ruler, but to her enemies. Queen Tamar of Georgia, beloved, wise, victorious. But her reign began in doubt. Nobles revolted. Her own husband turned traitor. She responded not with rage, but precision, quiet force, silent judgment. Her enemies, exiled, defeated, forgotten, but she remained, and ruled in gold and peace. Sometimes brutality is not noise, it's refusal to forgive. Tonight, let this reverse echo rest. Can mercy be the sharpest blade? Let your thoughts settle beside her quiet crown. Hey friends, we close this chapter in modern Rwanda. Paul Kagame, soldier, strategist, savior to some, shadow to others. He ended the 1994 genocide, brought peace, stability, growth, technology. But critics whisper of surveillance, suppressed opposition, vanished voices. He walks calmly, speaks precisely, wears suits without wrinkles, and behind him, stillness. He says it's discipline, others say it's fear. He wins elections by wide margins, too wide. He leads Rwanda into the future, but drags questions from the past. Tonight, ask gently. Can healing be too quiet? Let Kigali's hills hold that answer. Hey friends, you've heard his name before, but Mobutu's story has another layer. After his golden reign ended, Mobutu fled. His empire, once dressed in leopard skin and French silk, unraveled. But while he ruled, Zaire became a theater. He changed the country's name, the people's names, and history's direction. He outlawed Western suits, then wore them himself. He built airports to nowhere, statues of himself, cities in his image. But under it all, poverty, fear, loyalty purchased, not earned. He once said, "There is no opposition in heaven. Why should there be one in Zaire?" He died in exile, no grand farewell, no monument. Tonight, ask gently, can a man build a palace and still live alone? Let that palace fade into jungle vines. You are now stepping into a forgotten tale, one of Georgia, not conquest. There was once a prince known by nickname alone, Attila. Fierce, commanding, feared. He wasn't born to rule, but his presence made others step back. His voice, calm. His hands, cold. He took power not through battle, but through elimination. Brothers vanished. Allies lost favor. The throne made space for silence. He ruled briefly, but left scars. Reforms for some, ruin for others. And when he died, his name passed into legend, but never into textbooks. Tonight, ask this, can you fear a name more than a man? Let the hills of Tbilisi quiet your thoughts. Hey friends, let the incense of Ethiopia fill your senses now. Haile Selassie, Lion of Judah, revered, almost divine, even worshipped. He spoke of unity, justice, African independence, and yet he ruled with a firm hand. Dissent? Drowned beneath robes of silence. He built schools, hospitals, but kept power tight. Famines were hidden, voices muffled. To some, he was a prophet. To others, a king who aged into denial. Overthrown in a quiet coup, he died under uncertain circumstances, and his body lay missing for decades. Tonight, ask softly, can sainthood and statecraft ever share a throne? Let his legend drift like frankincense. Dear listener, we return to Rome. Before Caesars, before emperors. Marius was a general, a 7-time consul, a reformer and destroyer. He opened the army to the poor, built new legions, and turned soldiers into loyalists, not of Rome, but of him. He battled abroad and at home. Civil war stained his later years. In his final days, paranoid and ill, he ordered executions from bed, whispered names, watched old friends disappear. He died shortly after returning to power, one last grasp before the curtain fell. Tonight, wonder this, when does victory stop feeling like peace? Let that thought walk barefoot through the forum. Hey friends, you've met Bokassa before, but his crown deserves one final glance. The coronation cost millions, silk imported, diamonds polished, but the applause was rented. His people starved, his enemies feared, his critics removed. And yet he kept a diary, scribbled hopes, called himself a builder of dreams. After exile, he returned, said, "Only Jesus was greater than me," then faded again. Some kings rule once. Bokassa ruled 3 times, in power, in memory, in myth. Tonight, ask gently, can a page of history be rewritten with gold ink let the final curtain fall. You are now entering Constantinople, glowing with gold, humming with prayer. Theodosius united the Roman Empire for the last time, but also made Christianity its law. He outlawed paganism, closed temples, burned libraries, statues toppled, rituals ended. He ordered massacres after a rebellion, then repented, walked barefoot in sackcloth, wept before bishops. He was both hammer and harp. He died in 395. The empire split, east and west, never again one. Tonight, ask, can belief burn as bright as it blinds? Let your thoughts walk those ruined marble steps. Hey friends, the lights dim further. We step into the land of eternal leaders. Kim Il-sung, founder of North Korea. Worshipped in textbooks, painted in murals, carved into mountains. He created Yusha. Self-reliance turned into surveillance. He smiled in photos, built stadiums, and shaped a nation around one name. Dissent disappeared. Questions vanished. Borders locked. Even after death, he remained eternal president. His statue, always clean. His portrait, always watched. Tonight, ask softly, can a man rule from beyond? Let the northern winds hush the answer. Dear listeners, we now enter Cairo, under moonlight and mystery. Al-Hakim ruled the Fatimid Caliphate with both brilliance and bewilderment. He built observatories, protected minorities, walked the streets at night in disguise. But also banned shoes, banned grapes, ordered the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, then retracted it. Some called him mad, others divine. He disappeared one night, rode out and never returned. His followers called it ascension. Historians called it vanishing. Tonight, wonder this. Does mystery preserve memory? Let his absence settle beside you. Hey friends, remember Catherine. She returns once more, not for blood, but for balance. Catherine was not just a queen mother, she was a chess player. She tried to hold France together through weddings, compromises, and whispers. But peace escaped her, so she chose survival. She watched her sons die one by one, her dynasty fade, and still she hosted dinners. Still she dressed in black. She wasn't cruel for power, she was cruel for order. Tonight, ask softly, can fear be maternal? Let the black lace of her veil drift into sleep. Hey friends, we close this chapter in desert winds and smoke. Saddam Hussein, leader of Iraq, statues high, murals many, smiles shallow. He ruled with charisma, with violence, with calculation. He wrote novels, danced for cameras, buried dissent under sand. He fought wars, built palaces, and recorded everything. In the end, he hid in a hole, unkempt, quiet, waiting. He was tried, hanged, but his name lingers in silence and debate. Tonight, ask gently. Does control always dissolve into dust? Let the winds of Babylon answer if they choose. Hey friends, dim the cathedral lights. Tonight's story wears robes and secrets. Rodrigo Borgia became Pope Alexander VI in 1492. Not through purity, through politics. He was charming, wealthy, calculated. He had children, openly, favored them, boldly, bought votes, sold indulgences, dined richly. But beneath the feasts were poisons, beneath the incense, whispers. He ruled Rome as a dynasty, not a church. His son, Cesare, his daughter Lucrezia, names wrapped in myth and mischief. He died of fever or poison or both, buried quietly. No grand papal farewell. Tonight, ask, can holiness wear ambition like a cloak? Let the bells toll once and fade. You are now walking paths less traveled, through ancient Thessaly's shadows. Diocles isn't well known, but legend paints him cruel. He believed in unity through order, and order through fear. He ruled a region, not an empire, but his grip was firm. Accused of purging local democracies, of rewriting law to fit loyalty. They say he held court at night. Punishments were carried out before dawn, and yet no scribes ever documented his trials. Eventually, he vanished from records. No death date, no tomb, only fragments. Tonight, wonder. Is the quietest tyranny the one that forgets to leave footprints? Let the olive trees whisper over forgotten stones. Hey friends, we now step into golden mosaics and unshakable ambition. Justinian the Great ruled Byzantium with vision. He built Hagia Sophia, rewrote Roman law, dreamed of reunifying the empire. But dreams require sacrifice. The Nika riots broke out. His people, once chanting his name, turned to fire. His advisors urged escape. His wife, Theodora, said, "Purple is the noblest shroud." He stayed. He crushed the rebellion. Tens of thousands died. The city grew silent, and his rule stronger. He believed he served God and Rome. Tonight, ask softly, can beauty be built on ashes? Let the domes of Constantinople gleam and then dim. You are now standing beneath the Southern Cross, Argentina, 1980s. Galtieri wore medals, sung speeches, drank whiskey, and invaded the Falkland Islands. A short war, a humiliating loss. But before the war, he was feared. Dissidents disappeared. Questions vanished. He called it reorganization. After the war, the people turned. His rule fell within weeks. But the silence he'd built took years to fade. He died decades later, unrepentant. Tonight, ask, can a moment of failure undo years of fear? Let the waves over the Falklands carry the answer home. Hey friends, back to Rome, this time into gold and fire. Crassus was rich, very rich. Owned land, mines, fire brigades. When homes caught fire, his men would arrive and offer to buy the building before putting it out. He crushed the Spartacus rebellion, lined roads with crosses, showed Rome that order came with a price. He dreamed of military glory, invaded Parthia, lost badly. Legends say molten gold was poured into his mouth. Fitting, some whispered. Tonight wonder, can wealth ever be full if it's fed with fear? Let the coins clink softly, then stop. You've met her namesake before, but this queen ruled differently, and yet not softly. Ranavalona Diaseku of Madagascar embraced Christianity, built churches, burned royal idols, shifted the island's soul. But change, no matter the direction, came with suppression. She centralized power, silenced resistance, gave sermons with one hand and laws with the other. She believed she was saving her people from spirits, from the past. But some asked, what if salvation feels like exile? She died in sleep, surrounded by scripture. Tonight wonder, can belief rebuild if it first destroys? Let the rain fall gently on red earth. Hey friends, a hush now. We step into present-day Syria. Bashar trained as an eye doctor, spoke softly, smiled politely. He wasn't meant to rule. His brother was. But when fate shifted, Bashar took the throne. He promised reform, hope. Then war came. Bombs fell, cities cracked, millions fled. But his voice stayed calm, his presence precise. He spoke of sovereignty, of survival, of resisting foreign plots. But in his silence, many voices vanished. He still rules, still speaks, still wears a suit and tie. Tonight, ask gently, when peace is postponed indefinitely, is it still promised? Let Damascus sleep if it can. You are now walking into Nineveh, ancient, dazzling, ruthless. Ashurbanipal was a king of Assyria. He built the first known library, collected tablets, loved words. But he also conquered Egypt, burned cities, enslaved kings. He recorded it all in stone. He smiled in his carvings, surrounded by lions, some dead, some dying. To him, knowledge and conquest were twins, books and blades. He died quietly, but his library still speaks. Tonight ask, can literacy and violence coexist? Let the cuneiform drift like ancient dust. Dear listener, we return once more to Uganda. Idi Amin, the last king of Scotland, wore military jackets and broad grins. He joked in interviews, posed for cameras, but built a regime on silence. He expelled Asians, crushed dissent, ate lavishly while his people starved. Yet, he swam every morning, read novels, loved music. He wasn't madness. He was unpredictability. He died in exile, quiet, obese, forgotten by many, remembered by too many. Tonight, ask, does memory soften monsters, or just forget them? Let the night choose what to keep. Hey friends, not all names become legacies. Some become footnotes. Nero Claudius Drusus was a general, a builder, a brother to an emperor, father to another. He never ruled, but his ambition shaped those who did. He conquered Germanic tribes, built roads, died young. Maybe by accident, maybe not. His name lived on, in monuments, in bloodlines, in echoes. Not all brutal legacies are loud. Some ripple quietly, reshaping generations. Tonight, ask, can shadows rule, even when their owners never did? Let the footsteps fade into forest fog. Hey friends, we return to Ethiopia once more, this time to a throne of paradox. Menelik II is remembered for victory. He defeated Italy at the Battle of Adwa, preserved Ethiopian sovereignty, united tribes, built railways, introduced modern medicine, but his rule also echoed with silence and control. He punished rebels harshly, expanded territory through campaigns that left scars, centralized power beneath crosses and rifles. He loved science, once ordered a man to swallow a Bible, to test digestion. Toward the end, illness left him paralyzed. He ruled in silence. Tonight, ask, can heroism and harshness wear the same crown? Let the desert winds carry that softly. You are now walking candlelit corridors of Spanish royalty, twisted by inheritance. Charles II was the last Habsburg ruler of Spain. Born weak, sickly, lonely, he could barely walk, rarely spoke, and never produced an heir. But behind his hollow eyes, absolute power remained. His court functioned like a puppet show. Ministers ruled in his name. His signature ended lives, started wars, determined fates. And yet he often cried in private, prayed with desperation, feared devils in shadows. He died at 38, a child in a man's crown. Tonight, wonder, can helplessness still be harmful? Let the chandeliers flicker and fade. Hey friends, we now drift to Sudan, where decades passed beneath one man's hand. An Omar al-Bashir rose through military ranks, took power in a coup, then stayed for 30 years. He smiled often, gave long speeches, but beneath that smile, genocide, repression, civil war. Darfur burned, voices vanished, borders shifted. He survived uprisings, sanctions, warrants, and still he danced in public. Eventually, his own generals removed him, but accountability remained, distant. Tonight, ask, can charisma become a cloak for cruelty? Let the Nile carry your question downstream. Hey friends, back to medieval England, where royalty met rebellion. John, youngest son of Henry II, brother of Richard the Lionheart, king by circumstance. He taxed heavily, quarreled endlessly, lost lands in France, imprisoned nobles, starved rivals. Even his own barons rebelled, forced him to sign the Magna Carta, a document he never intended to honor. He died from dysentery, alone, mid-war, with a kingdom tired of him. And yet he changed governance forever. Tonight, ask, can a bad king leave behind a good idea? Let the parchment curl quietly in candlelight. You've heard his name, but this time, let's observe Mao not in war, but in harvest, the Great Leap Forward, a campaign for progress, modernization, steel in every village. But grain was misreported. Tools melted into useless blocks. Famine spread. He didn't yell. He waited, observed, blamed the weather. Millions died. But poems were still written in his honor. He died in 1976. His portrait still hangs in Tiananmen. Tonight, ask gently. When dreams grow too fast, what withers? Let the rice fields sigh beneath moonlight. Dear listener, welcome to Korea's other half, 1950s Seoul. Syngman Rhee was a scholar, Western educated, proud, passionate. He led South Korea through its fragile birth, fought communism, gained Western support, but he jailed opposition, rigged elections, silenced dissent. Massacres were buried under parades. Students rose. He stepped down and fled. He lived in exile until death, no longer feared, but never forgotten. Tonight, ask, can founding a country excuse failing its people? Let the lanterns along the Han River glow dimly. Hey, friends, drift now to Lisbon, under royal velvet and trembling hands. Maria, I was devout, studied, kind, called Maria the Pious. But after personal losses, her husband, her son, her mind slipped. She screamed at night, refused doctors, gave orders to shadows, yet still ruled. Ministers acted in her name. Her signature remained law. Her voice trembled in prayer. Eventually, her son ruled in her place, but only after years of quiet chaos. She died quietly, still titled Queen. Tonight, ask, can grief steer a kingdom even when the wheel is broken? Let the bells of Lisbon soften. You are now walking past mirrored palaces in the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos ruled with vision, and velvet gloves hiding steel fists. He built roads, dams, cities, declared martial law, suspended freedoms, jailed critics. He smiled beneath sunglasses. His wife, Imelda, collected shoes while children starved. Eventually, the people marched. He fled, still denying everything. He died in Hawaii, surrounded by luxury, his body embalmed, waiting to return. Years later, he did. Tonight, ask, can a regime outlive its exile? Let Manila's rain answer softly on cobbled streets. Hey, friends, we return to icy Russia. Not revolutions, but repression. Nicholas Amai ruled with order. Uniforms, protocols, silence. He crushed the Decembrist revolt. Expanded the secret police, censored books, controlled thought. To him, the empire was a clock, and every tick needed watching. He built railways, but feared telegraphs. He died during the Crimean War, unfulfilled, unyielding. Tonight, ask softly, can stability suffocate? Let the snow fall on Palace Square. One last time, dear listener. Bokassa, once a child soldier, then a general, then a self-declared emperor. He ruled the Central African Empire with diamonds, decrees, and dread. He crowned himself, hosted feasts, then vanished, then returned, then vanished again. His rule became legend, a spiral of power, paranoia, and pageantry. He died quietly, buried quietly, but his story never quite left. Tonight, ask, do crowns ever sleep? Let his empire fade into silence. Hey, friends, step into the forbidden city, where silk meets steel. Cixi entered as a concubine, rose as a regent, and ruled China behind curtains for nearly 50 years. She never held the title of emperor, but no decision passed without her nod. She crushed rebellions, ordered executions, funded opera, renovated palaces, but halted reforms, feared progress, prioritized power. She bathed in milk, painted her nails black, smiled in portraits, while change trembled outside the palace gates. She died at peace, but left a China ready to shatter. Tonight, ask, can one hold a nation still? By standing still, let the lanterns flicker out behind the red walls. You are now walking the Caribbean shore, under stars dimmed by surveillance. Trujillo ruled the Dominican Republic for over 30 years. He renamed cities, mountains, even rainfall, some joked. He built infrastructure, polished his boots daily, but demanded total obedience. He once ordered an entire border village erased, over an insult. His image adorned coins, churches, and school books, until one night it ended. An ambush, on a road. They say the moon was full. Tonight, wonder, can a name shine too brightly until it burns itself? Let the surf erase his footprints. Hey friends, once more to Japan, this time in memory. Hirohito watched his nation rise, fall, and rise again. He wore medals, observed creatures under microscopes, spoke rarely. In war, his name justified conquest. After war, he became a symbol, distant, delicate, enduring. He waved from balconies, children bowed, but no apology ever passed his lips. He died in 1989, his funeral, silent, vast, ceremonial. Tonight, ask, can absence speak? Let Mount Fuji hold your thought. Dear listener, let's walk through velvet halls of scandal and exile. Isabella II became queen as a child, manipulated, misguided, mocked. She survived palace plots, revolts, and ridicule. She embraced luxury, dismissed politics, and distrusted nearly everyone. Spain fractured under her rule, and when revolution came, she left, quietly, with jewels packed in boxes. She died in France, almost forgotten. But monarchy returned through her son. Tonight, ask, can silence become inheritance? Let the perfume of fading roses soften the air. You've heard of Sankara, the African Che Guevara, but tonight we reflect on his betrayer, Blaise Compaoré, once Sankara's friend, fellow soldier, comrade. Then, one day, a coup, sudden, sharp, final. Sankara was gone, and Compaoré ruled for 27 years. He spoke of pragmatism, diplomacy, but his rule turned rigid. Wealth grew uneven. Voices dimmed. Eventually, the people rose. Again, and Compaoré fled. Tonight ask, can betrayal build a palace? Let the drums quiet, but not forget. Hey friends, drift into late Rome, where empire met exhaustion. Valentinian was a soldier first, emperor second. He built fortresses, fought invasions, feared dissent. He once summoned envoys, then died of rage during their meeting. His blood pressure, his undoing. He ruled firmly, but never gently. Still, his policies shaped the West's survival. His legacy, complicated. His death, sudden. His empire, shaky. His name, whispered. Tonight ask, can strength collapse from within? Let the bricks of old Rome remember. You are now in Angola, where a queen once outwitted empires. Nzinga negotiated with the Portuguese sitting on a servant's back, refusing to kneel. She led armies, switched faiths, played politics like chess. But her enemies, oh, her enemies, were left scattered, confused, defeated. They called her savage, unstable, but feared her brilliance. She ruled into her 60s, died with dignity, outlived most foes. Tonight ask, can elegance be sharp? Let the drums of the savannah slow. Hey friends, we revisit Cambodia one last time. Pol Pot smiled in photographs, wore sandals, claimed simplicity, but under his rule, Cambodia emptied, cities evacuated, history erased. He fled, hunted, never tried, died in a jungle hut, not by court, but by quiet. His ashes scattered, no tomb, no marker, but the silence remains. Tonight, ask, can a whisper echo longer than a scream? Let the forest absorb it. Dear listener, one more royal sigh. Henry VIII. Yes, him again. You know the story, wives, wars, reformation. But behind the headlines, loneliness, paranoia, decay. He once wrote love songs, then erased names from tombstones. He built England, then broke it, rebuilt it again. He died obese, infected, unloved, yet still called majesty. Tonight ask, can a legacy outlive a man? Let the crown sit empty for a moment. Hey, friends, the last step is yours. Some rulers never make the history books, their names buried, their crimes forgotten, their portraits lost to time, but perhaps they ruled a village, or a church, or a home. They weren't emperors, just men with unchecked power. Power, after all, doesn't need titles, only silence. So tonight, ask, what makes a tyrant? Let the answer fade like candle smoke. And sleep well now. The stories are done.